Hi, everybody. This is Greg with the Dice Must Flow, and welcome back to another episode of Sigmar and Son. I have with me my son, Mark.
Hello.
Hello. And I have with us today as a special guest, David Griffin.
Hello, hello.
And David is the tournament organizer of Nash Con. I don't know why my brain went dead there for a second. I was going to say, and so, yeah, I was going to say Nash of Sigmar, which is your Twitter handle.
Yep.
And everything else went bad from there.
That's
so anyway, Dave's going to talk to us tonight a little bit about the tournament at Nashcon and maybe about, how to go about running an Age of Sigmar event in your town. And so I guess I should say that we're recording this a little bit earlier than the weekend with Mother's Day this weekend. Everybody had family obligations, so we're recording it a little early. So our news is a little bit light, and we'll just go from there and pick it up next time. So going with news, coming out this weekend is the Achillean Leviathan, right? Is that the way to pronounce it?
Yeah.
Which is the big turtle. And they have an awesome picture of this guy on the website, which now flipped away. Anyway, so then coming out then for pre-order this weekend, it looks like this is the end of the Ideneth Deepkin, and it's the Fangmora Eels and the Achillean Alopex, which is the shark.
Yep.
So that should be, I guess that's it, right? Is there anything we've not seen or won't have seen?
I believe that's it. Are you getting this stuff, David?
Yeah, so I'm going all in.
Same.
Yeah. Are you as well?
I have no money.
Mark has gone all in with it, and he's hoping to get it done by
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
But,
That's why I messaged you asking.
Yeah.
Thing.
I will be doing it. I don't ever paint armies all at quickly, so I'll be doing the slow grow as I usually do. But I know everyone's waiting on those eels. The eels are like the hotness, I think, in the army. So
they're kind of like you kind of need them. They're kind of like I'm going to be running like 4 or 5 of them, I think.
Mm-hmm.
4 or 5,
definitely.
Or 4 or 5 eels.
4 or 5 eels.
So anyway, yeah, that's the really cool stuff that's coming out. Those are the ones that everybody's been waiting for, because I really think those eels are going to be what makes that unit go, or that army go. They're going to go up and screen. And I made an observation. If you actually played by non-bases, I know a lot of we play bases or whatever, but those eels are so long you could run them sideways, right? You just run them up the board like that, and they'd just be like a big 24-inch screen or whatever that would go up with that.
Yeah, they're really long. They hang over the base a good bit.
A ton.
So yeah, that's what I was saying. If you actually ran them sideways, and I think even now
you're going to be running them sideways anyway. So
I think you're going to run them sideways with the base like that anyway, to try and make units have to shoot them and not be able to move through them.
Especially the Ishland, the ones that ignore Rend. Those are. I would be surprised if you ever see them not sideways.
Yeah.
I guess going on, and this is a little bit old, is there was some Malign Portent stories. I'm way behind on them. But there was one that was out, I guess it was a week or 2 ago, The Price of Apotheosis. And that was the one where there was a Sigmarine, or a Stormcast Eternal. And they were going through the process of reforging. And I thought that one was really interesting, because first it talked about how they were taking multiple soul bits and smashing them together, which kind of is a theme, I think, that was going on with the Ideneth, right? There's multiple souls that are getting smashed together into one thing.
Yeah.
And that was pretty cool. And and it's a pretty dark story because basically it's like this guy's like, why is this guy screaming, and why are these souls hating what's happening to them? This is, I am a warrior of Sigmar, and this is this is all for the glory of Sigmar, etc. And then the kind of ironic thing is the story ends with the guy who they were reforging coming out, basically saying the same thing the guard of the story was saying. So it was kind of spooky, but pretty cool. Sometimes I wonder if they keep hinting that these guys get less and less and less of themselves. You wonder if that will lead to quote unquote Chaos Marines or whatever. I know everybody's wondering that.
Yeah, I don't know. It would be interesting. It would be interesting to see what they do. I think Age of Sigmar is they try to do things a little bit differently. So I wonder if they would do some sort of corruption twist rather than going just straight up chaos Stormcast.
I know the Garage Hammer Dave is all about. He's thinking the Ideneth or Chaos Elves, but
yeah,
it could be.
Yeah, they definitely play in that shades of gray area. Not like they're not. There's no black and white with Ideneth. They definitely are.
Right.
Yeah.
Using the old D&D terms, I kind of call them lawful evil. So like they're order, but they're not good. That's for sure.
Yeah, you could even go. I mean, if you're gonna go use D&D terms, you could even go. I could see him sitting in more of a neutral area because
neutral evil, yeah. Or neutral, yeah. Just this is what we have to do to survive. That's what it is.
Exactly.
So anyway, Dave, you are running, or you're one of the people of the group, I guess, or I don't know, for the Age of Sigmar tournament at Nashcon, and that is coming up when?
Yeah, Nashcon's happening June 2nd and 3rd down here in Nashville, Tennessee. I will be running it as part of the larger convention of Nashcon. So I'm responsible for the Age of Sigmar GT portion of the convention.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, I can certainly describe it if you'd like.
Yeah, well, I know there's 5 games, Saturday and Sunday. So I guess 3 and 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess how many people are you guys expecting or have registered? And go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So we're I think we'll be somewhere around 40, I think. Should be good. So we've grown since last year. And we've got a pretty good. I'm pretty encouraged by just there's some people who are traveling a pretty good distance to come, and it's pretty exciting for me. I think it's a lot of fun. I know you guys are making the drive, right?
Right, we're heading down.
It's not too far from us though, so
yeah,
we'll be heading down Friday night. Unfortunately, probably can't make the Friday day.
Yeah, yeah. So I'll touch on all that. So there is a Shadespire little tournament happening Friday evening for and Age of Sigmar players can get in for free. And it just comes down to travel if you can get there in time. And I know it's tough for people out of town for sure. But the Age of Sigmar GT is 5 games, General's Handbook or GHB 17 scenarios. And one thing that we do at Nashcon that we started last year was schemes. And schemes were our hidden secondary objectives. And basically, when you get to the tournament, we give you a deck of 7 cards. I think last year they drew their deck. I think this year we may actually have the decks pre-prepared. Haven't finalized that yet. But
streamline it.
What's that?
Streamlines it.
Yeah, exactly. We did have some confusion with people drawing cards and stuff last year. It was more funny than anything that people screwed up drawing cards. But I think Tom Lyons, I was giving him a hard time about it. Anyway, so basically you show up, you get 7 cards, and those are your secret objectives for the next 5 games. And so you're going to play 5 of those 7, so 2 will not be played. And that's for good reason, because some of the schemes some of them aren't too bad, but some of the schemes are can be very challenging for your army, and that's kind of the point. The point is that they stretch you, make you play a little bit against how your army would typically play sometimes, and they make you do things that are a little uncomfortable, but they're worth a pretty good deal. They're worth 1 point less than a minor victory. So yeah, cool. You got the scheme list up.
Yeah, I went ahead and brought the scheme list up, and these look pretty cool. I guess having played at Adepticon, this is going to be a lot deeper. So you always knew, sort of at Adepticon, you had a really good idea what people were doing with their secondary objective. But there's so many here, it's not going to be obvious what people are doing. So I'm just kind of scrolling through Blood for the Blood God, and goal is cause as much bloodshed as possible. Or there's a Tomb King curse, that's for me. King of Monsters, have only one monster alive on the battlefield at the end of the game. That might be a problem if I don't have a monster. Like you said, it's challenges for different people.
Yeah, and I actually, that pack is going to be updated here in the next couple of days. Work's been a little bit nuts for me, and I haven't been able to get to it. But between work and terrain building,
right.
But actually, there's an updated scheme list that'll be released ASAP, and so we'll put that'll be reflected in the pack, and everybody who signed up will get a notification. They're largely the same. There's a few small tweaks and some new ones as well.
I got to tell you, I've looked at this pack, and I know some people were ragging on you earlier about the Nashcon website, but this pack is great. I mean, it really lists all the details, like what base sizes you guys want or what you would prefer for people, and the scoring, and I didn't I had a lot of problems figuring out what I should be doing at Adepticon or bringing, and I didn't have that problem here. You guys have done a great job.
Yeah, so I mean, I shamelessly stole and borrowed from many different packs. So I looked across things like Adepticon or South Coast GT, so some of the bigger ones, and I just kind of pick and choose, chose what I liked, and I also tweaked and added things in. I come from a kind of a unique perspective, whereas I'm not kind of a tournament gamer who's been in the tournament scene for an extended period of time, and so I also had kind of an experience, my first Adepticon, where I was just completely out of my league. I didn't know what was happening.
We were there with you this year.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I had a blast, but as I was writing my pack, I tried to list things that I thought would be useful for someone who maybe wasn't as experienced in the scene. So I'm glad it was that successful.
Yeah, that's very good. And the tournament, it's 2,000 points, so that's pretty much the normal. But you have a little twist that's different, and that is the two list concept. Can you go into that?
Yeah, absolutely. That was one that I went back and forth on whether to do again this year. I think it was really well received last year, and so we kept it in. And basically, what the two list format is you come to the tournament. Typically, in a normal tournament, you have so tournaments are run in a few different ways. One is you have a static list that is your list for the whole tournament, so your list never changes over the 5 or 6 games. The other way is you have a sideboard. So some tournaments allow you to carry like a 500 or 1,000 point sideboard of models that you can switch. That was done a lot early on in Age of Sigmar. And then there's another way that I've done, and then I believe Facehammer GT was the first ones to do it. But it's basically you come to the tournament with 2 static lists, and they're from the same Grand Alliance, and you have to play both of them at least once over the course of the 5 games.
So if somebody just said, I'm Grand Alliance Order, if they really were crazy, they could bring an Ideneth Deepkin list and then a Stormcast list and be cool.
Yep.
But I know it says in the pack, it can be two lists could be just exactly the same except one artifact or something.
Correct. Yeah. So I would, yeah. There's some people who want to bring loads of stuff and try out tons of different things. And then there's some people who are like, I'm paying to the last minute. I don't want to have to paint extra units. And so it's, yeah, looking at you. And so it can be as simple as just switching an artifact or a command trait or whatever. The only limitation to models brought is that they need to fit on a 2x2 display board. So I think somewhere in the pack, I encourage not to bring the entire collection.
Right. Yeah. Especially you were saying with the with summoning.
Yeah.
Right? You actually could, like, if you actually could summon people, don't bring the entire collection.
Yeah. And actually, GW is helping a little bit with summoning. They're changing the way summoning works for a lot of armies, like Death.
Yeah.
Right. You have it has to be on your list. Summoning isn't just coming from kind of like a vast pool, right? So that's nice.
Yeah. And
have you played any other games, David? Like, say, War Machine? Like, did you play that at all?
I'm pretty much a Warhammer. I played Warhammer Fantasy, and then I took a break, and then came into Age of Sigmar. That's pretty much all.
Because I know this. They're two-way lists is their like tournament structure made by their like privateer press or whatever. So I didn't know if you had any influence from them or anything.
No, but that's not to say that the Facehammer guys that did it first,
right?
That could have been, what's their impetus.
Yeah.
So one thing I did do when we skipped ahead and talked about the tournament, we should talk about your background, and you alluded to it a little bit there, but how did you get into AOS and what do you play?
Yeah. So I think I have a fairly standard story. I've heard the same kind of background from a couple of different people, but I played. I went into a GW store when I was like 12, I think, and
I don't have that background.
What's that?
I said I don't have that background.
Well, I've heard a similar story.
Get it? He's old.
I'm really old.
But anyway, and I got sat down, and they gave me a block of Empire Knights to push around a table, and I played in the game and was hooked. And so I played probably when I was younger, and then up through into early high school, I think. And then I dropped it, because girls and sports and stuff, and
girls.
And then
girls.
Yeah, girls. And then went to college, and then after college, kind of sat down and was like, man, I really could. Yeah, I've always enjoyed painting and stuff, so I just started painting, just kind of in my spare time. And then Age of Sigmar rolled around, and I kind of looked at it and was like, because I've always found like the 8th edition fantasy to be daunting from the rule standpoint. It just seemed like a real pain to learn, and so when Age of Sigmar came around, I was like, yeah, this seems more my speed. And then just really hit the ground running. Did the whole rebasing of all my old stuff, and then started off playing, doing an old school like Bretonnian army, and kind of it would be a mixed order today, and then switched over to Death, then switched to Stormcast, and now I'm about to get on the Ideneth train. So it's good stuff.
So you have a lot of spare cash. Now you don't, but had to.
Yeah, well, I find I try to do an army a year, which isn't as taxing as some.
So yeah, I don't know if I started fantasy and then Mark at the same time, basically, with 8th edition. I know it was a kind of a long time. 8th was out, but we I really liked it. I really missed the rank and flank, and so I was one of those. Well, I was also starting this whole Tomb King army and that whole thing, so I was kind of went away from the game. But I think one of the reasons I ended up getting involved with it, Age of Sigmar and Warhammer, I always loved miniature games. Love the look of it on the table. But I started. Well, I never got into the privateer press ones, but I did other ones, and they were smaller or whatever, and then they kind of went away. I don't know if that makes any sense.
No one played them.
When I got into when I played them, so I knew when I got into Warhammer, I would have a game that in a Warhammer store around. I have a game that I would be able to play, and love the look of it. And so, like you said, the rules were daunting to get involved in, and so now it does seem like it's certainly friendlier to get involved with, especially just the little 4-page thing and stuff. But there is a whole lot of stuff that I'm realizing as we are learning to play more of the tournament scene, just how important little things are that you didn't realize.
Yeah. So Age of Sigmar I think it's a very it's a very well designed system in that you can get in at it's relatively simple to learn the core concept and the basics of the game. But there's kind of a very deep level of complexity once you get into the War Scrolls, and then of course the match play rules from the GHB really add many layers of complexity that are that a competitive gamer really enjoys.
Right. So even though it's a light, I think of it as like a light game in one sense, but it's also a heavy game from the tournament perspective. You have to know kind of all the armies. I always bring everything back to Starfleet Battles because I used to play competitive Starfleet Battles. And when you were playing Starfleet Battles, which is like Star Trek ship-to-ship combat game, you had to know what your ship was going to do, what its opening was going to be against every other 16 ships in the game, and how you were going to do that game or play that game out. And Sigmar is very much that way, I think. You have to know what you're going to do, or you're going to get lost in the tables. And it's almost more important in this game because the limited turns.
Yeah, and there's a whole lot. I mean, there's a ton of complexity, even with movement. I think you really start to get when you start getting into the top tables, and like the more skilled players, the way they move models is different from someone who's newer, and the way doing things like the intricacies of pile-ins and working your screens and swinging over the top of models using your reach. So different things like that. There's a lot of nuance there. There's also the double turn, which I know is fairly unique, and it is a
love it or hate
love it or they hate it. But it's
love it when you get it, hate it when it gets you.
Yeah, exactly. But playing around the double turn is again, it separates the men from the boys a lot of times, where it'll bite you sometimes, but it's just I enjoy it.
So, you already talked about go looking at my list of things to talk about, but you already talked about your Shadespire tournament, which is just a fantastic game.
Oh yeah,
really do enjoy it. And I guess I wanted to go about talking about, I know, how is it, I guess, running an AOS event, if you had any suggestions, how would you, did you run smaller ones first? Was it done by, did you have a standard group or whatever? Because, I mean, one of the things, Mark, he can talk about this too, but we've been trying to maybe get one done here in St. Louis. One problem, if it makes any sense, in St. Louis is there's almost too many game stores and they're very fragmented. But how did you go about getting involved in running the tournaments? Were you suckered or?
Yeah, so I wasn't suckered. Well, actually, it's funny. So I went to Adepticon, my first, when AOS first came out. So I went to the first AOS Adepticon, and I loved it. Like I said, what's that?
That's probably like 2 years ago, or
yeah, it was 2 years ago. Yep. And I fell in love with the tournament scene, all the people. I think that's what I enjoyed the most, was all the people there, all the new faces. That was kind of, at that point I didn't know anybody, and and I came back to Nashville, where I think the South is so the Southeast, kind of our region, kind of suffered a lot when AOS first came out. I think it got hit pretty hard by like the Kings of War crowd and all of that. And so a lot of people, or not just Kings of War, but other game systems, and people moved away from Warhammer for a time. And when I came back, we had a relatively small but very like excited community of players, and so I was encouraged to kind of like I started looking around. I was like, man, I would really like to run something small here, get people together, just to kind of get help other people discover kind of what the AOS tournament scene can be. And I was actually approached by a group. They're called the Redstone Rumble. It's a small like gaming convention in Huntsville, Alabama, which is where I'm originally from. And I was approached to run an AOS tournament, and we got it going, and no one signed up. And so basically, like the week or two before, we had to cut it. And I was like, but I still wanted to run a tournament because I'd done all this work. And so I basically just sent out like an email to people in the area. And I was like, hey, I'm going to run just a 1-day 3-game, like 2,000-point tournament we had like a Hobbytown USA, which was in Nashville. And they had like a little gaming room of like, I think 10 tables or maybe 8 tables. Anyway, it was a decent sized little room. And they already had a lot of terrain and stuff. And I was like, hey, you know what? Redstone Rumble AOS isn't going to happen. But anybody, I had like 2 or 3 signups. It was pretty sad. But we had a number of people who in Nashville who were willing to or would be happy to come in for just a Saturday and play. And so basically what we did is we took all the prep for Redstone Rumble and did a small 1-day AOS little tournament. And what happened is we had 10 players, maybe 10 or 12 players. A lot of us hadn't met each other before, and like or just acquaintances at best. But we had a blast, and that group kind of cemented kind of a core group of players here in Nashville and kind of surrounding areas that then continued wanting to play in tournaments to some degree. And so that was kind of my first start. So it was a failure, kind of, but to a lesser degree, to a lesser degree a failure, to a greater degree a success for to begin our community here.
Right. We were going to run a tournament. Mark had signed up to do one at a local store.
Miniature Market, you probably know.
Yeah.
Store. Yeah, that's local to St. Louis. So.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
I didn't realize that.
They were going to. So you just killed our Games Workshop sponsorship, Mark. I'm
sure they love Miniature Market.
So yeah, they sell a lot of stuff. But I guess we picked a weekend that some other miniature event or something was going on.
Like M3 or something like that. I don't know.
It's actually not known of. So I think we canceled it. We're looking to reschedule something.
No, I'm still gonna run it because there's still like 8 people that I think want to do it still.
Okay. Well then, this is what I know.
So I will say, I will add that that's been a constant challenge for me and people in our area is that competing with especially Magic. So a lot of game stores, or especially there's 2 especially in our area that, I mean, their bread and butter is Magic. I mean, they bring in loads of people. Like on Friday Night Magic, they'll have 90 people show up.
Wow.
Jesus.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I came in and I was like, hey, I'd really like to run, a 12-person, 1-day tournament of Age of Sigmar. And they're just like, when do you want to run it? And I was like, on Saturday, like, yeah, sorry, man. Like, we don't, like, that's not, that's your big table is taking up room where Magic players could play.
Right.
And they're like, we have Mondays. And I was like, Okay. I can't.
Right.
Monday doesn't help me.
Yeah, and so like Mark has a background in competitive Magic, and what's the other one you played, Mark? The game that you miss every day.
WoW TCG.
Yeah, right. The World of Warcraft trading card game.
Yeah, I played Pokemon for a bit too.
But yeah, that's so you come at this game from a slightly different background, I guess. Dave, how do you go about doing matchups and scoring and software? Because I know there's all kind of, I mean, it's laid out as far as like how you get your points or whatever. But I know at Adepticon they had some software that they fed stuff in and automatically it gave matchups and stuff like that. I guess if you're doing something that big, but heck, if you're talking 40 to do that manually sounds daunting.
Yeah, I for smaller tournaments, I tried out, not this actually isn't just applicable for small tournaments. So for tournaments of all sizes, I found I used Best Coast pairings for my first smaller tournaments.
Best Coast pairing.
Best Coast pairings, yeah. It's what the ITC uses.
Okay.
And I used it strictly for pairings, and we toyed with doing the ITC stuff. There's a whole school of thought behind ITC or non-ITC, and that's not really what I cared.
ITC is Mark or Dave. I don't know what that is.
It's just like a tournament like organization, like software thing.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's a whole ranking, and they rank you by region, and it's very popular in the West Coast, and it's actually pretty popular in many places. But that's not really what
I know. That's what Miniature Market uses for their 40K.
Yeah. So. But anyway, I used it. It's a pretty, they have a pretty user friendly app and all that stuff. I found that was pretty nice. But I ended up for Nashcon just doing an Excel sheet and doing it manually and sorting by score, and then I didn't really have much of an issue. Now once you start getting into large formats like Adepticons or LVO and all of that, you need some sort of software. I'm not exactly sure what they used. I know I saw it on their screen, but I don't know what they used. But anyway, yeah, I just use an Excel sheet.
Excel, you get the points, you sort them, and you go top two this table, next to this table.
Yep. And what I did was, I mean, since we are, relatively, we're still a growing tournament. I just have a screen up, like a flat screen television, and I just put up the Excel sheet up on there, and people go up and see their tables. So 1, 2, 3, and I have them just paired up. And if there's ever a duplicate, like if you're paired with the same person twice, they'll just tell me. I just switch the tables real fast. It was super quick. Really not as daunting. I was worried going into it that it was going to be a chore. But I didn't have any trouble, honestly.
Yeah, that's a good suggestion. I actually hadn't thought of that, but I was like figuring, I'm like, okay, well, how do you know that this person, they've got a tie, but they've the strength of schedule versus this other person. How do you know who the top player is and all that kind of stuff?
I guess sort by the score, and even Adepticon, they have duplicates, or in the past they did, where you get paired against the same person twice. And you just have to tell them, and they'll switch you. It's pretty easy. That part is pretty simple.
So, I guess running a first event, what would you suggest? Like a one-day thing? Would you suggest the 2,000 points, or would you suggest something smaller, or to get people you think they might grow into it that wouldn't be as daunting, or
painting, non-painting?
Yeah, non-painting.
I think it totally is what your community is ready for and what their appetite is, and how many people you can get out to your event. So at our local smaller events, for the most part, we don't require painting, because a lot of those are, you're building an army sometimes the people are just testing out new things. And we've run a few different sizes. We've even run a skirmish tournament before. That was pretty fun. But we've done a couple 1,000-point tournaments, and those are very entertaining, and don't typically require paint. Though once we start getting close, a lot of times our smaller tournaments will be prep tournaments for the big ones. So they'll be like a pre-Adepticon, and we may do a best painted there or something. But again, you're looking at 10 to 16 people, and it's not a huge field or anything. And what you don't want to do, I think, with smaller tournaments is make anybody not want to come because their army isn't painted. I think our goal for local stuff, and like the smaller, like 1 day, 3 game, 2,000 points, we want to just encourage more people to get out and play. And so while painting is like very much encouraged, we may still have a painting award. We don't enforce painting like you would at a larger event like a GT.
Right. And I really I liked your solution on the painting that you have. So basically that is working to where basically everybody who's playing votes for what they think is the best painted. Is that kind of what?
Yeah, I told her the idea of doing the judging, but I actually like player votes. I find that it's just a good. I actually think that knowing that my gaming peers think my army is the coolest or the best painted is more valuable to me personally than what some arbitrary judge says.
And a lot of people, even the judges are supposed to be non-biased. Generally, they have a lot, like they have a certain idea of what they think something should look like or what army is their best, and someone else might have a completely different. Like, I think this army looks way cooler than that army. You just have
Vince said last week on his show where somebody takes and looks underneath the model and it's not painted very good there because the detail's not there. It's like what's not supposed to be there because it's supposed to be in shadow. But I really love, that's the one thing that appeals to me is the painted stuff. And I try and figure out a way to encourage the paint, but most people, at least in our area.
What we're doing at Miniature Market is they wanted to run it, I guess, the same way. Their 40K tournaments are run, which is $10 entry. And then you have prizes go to first and second. And there's no painting requirement, but there's a best painted award that just people vote on, and then there's a random door prize.
Yeah, that's cool.
And so I know that our local, we do a lot with our local Games Workshop store, and the guy that runs that's pretty cool for us too. But I didn't think we could actually get enough tables out there. And the whole entry fee thing and stuff, I didn't think would necessarily.
Games Workshop, I don't think allows prizes and entry and stuff like that.
They don't allow. But we have run a 1,000-point tournament before and a skirmish tournament. We had so you can fit 4x4s pretty easily in Games Workshop stores. It's hard to fit 6x4s. So like a skirmish tournament there was actually pretty fun. Because we had a pretty good group, but you can stack 4x4s like really close together, and because you don't have tons of floor space at Games Workshops.
Right.
But what's great about that is that people are playing and they can immediately shop. And so as opposed to some games, some like friendly gaming stores, right, or your local gaming stores, they don't have like a full stock of Games Workshop product all the time. Miniature Market probably does, but.
They have a stock of lots of stuff.
Yeah.
That was the last question I really was going to say. Would you do it at a store or would you do it? I also know you can get like a hotel room for something small, but you're still going to probably have to provide the tables and all that kind of stuff. So if you got a store you can go to, that's probably the best thing.
Yeah, I think for sure, like 100%.
Going 2 days, then you might need. I don't think a store is going to let you have 2 days.
Yeah, probably not. Getting like taking up your store for that long is probably challenging. Because they want to run other things on those tables probably. But if not, I mean, there maybe, I don't know. It depends on the store. I think also you're just a lot of stores are limited by square footage. So you're capped at the max players you can get, which is a problem for some places. It's not really a problem for places with little, relatively smaller communities. Logistics, I mean, as far as choosing a venue outside of a store, it becomes much more complicated because you have to have a place that also has tables, unless you have some source of tables, like the actual physical tables. So hotels are good for that, but you have to pay for it,
Right.
which is a real pain. And thankfully, I lucked out. The one that I run, Nashcon, I'm just piggybacking into a convention that already has space and tables and all of those things. So in that way, it's really good. But I have looked into doing another GT in a different part of the year, like sometime in the fall, or the winter, and it was overwhelming to me, and so I had to. I think I may try again this year. But
yeah, you need to do it in the winter.
Yeah, well,
the problem is
I'm in Nashville, and it's a tourist city, and so hotels are outrageous. And so getting space in hotels, especially around the holidays, like around Christmas, it's not happening. So it's a challenge for sure.
All those Predator fans.
Hey man, go Preds.
So yeah, they're we want them. Actually, hockey's another big thing in our house, and we definitely want to make it down for a game.
Oh yeah, so, definitely.
But
who do you pull for?
What?
Who do you pull for in hockey?
The St. Louis Blues.
Oh,
and I'm an LA Kings fan because of Gretzky. I don't know. You can see some Gretzky stuff over there. Oh, we got a thing over there. See that stick over there?
Nice.
That stick's signed by the 1968 Blues.
Oh.
I was the Red Wings fan.
And I don't know how that happened.
But they suck right now, so it's okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
So, yeah, it's kind of like a punch in the gut when he's that way. I call it the PlayStation effect, because when he would play with his older brother would take the Blues. Mark would take the best team, which was the Red Wings. And then he began to learn all the players' names, and Steve Yzerman was godlike, etc. And ever since then, he's been a fan.
Yep, I did the same thing with Madden back in the day. It's why I loved the Packers for a while, because you had Favre, who was just the man in all video games for a little while. Yeah. So.
The one thing you guys were saying, I was going to get back to on the painting. You guys, I know you highly encourage the round bases, but you did say, like, if you showed up with the square bases or whatever, you could use it because you don't want to exclude people, but you were not going to get, you were automatically withdrawn from a painting award. Yep. And I kind of like that. I'm in the middle of rebasing everything and actually repainting stuff. So I've mentioned before, I've got this, and we sort of skipped to what are we working on, but I've got these really horrible Chaos Marauders.
Yeah.
That I'm working on, that I have to, it's tough with this picture, but I've pulled them all off, and I'm repainting them, trying to give them a bit of a Nurgle type look, but not totally Nurgle if I need to use them for something else. But yeah, so I need to, because I'm trying to build this like mortal Nurgle army. My army that I had from 8th edition was kind of combined chaos, where you just sort of took the best of. You took the monsters and the Chaos Marauders and one of each of whatever, and now they don't synergize. So now I'm trying to build kind of these guys, the Slaves of Darkness guys that were the old Chaos guys. You can tag them Nurgle, and you can put them with like Glotkin and other things, and they seem to synergize pretty well with that. So that's what I'm working towards. I don't know if I'm going to get it done, but after last week, I talked with Vince Ventrilo from Warhammer Weekly. He joined us, and we talked the Tomb Kings, because I don't know if you remember, I ran the Tomb King army up at Adepticon this year, which found out a few things I was doing wrong, and so now I am more excited to run the Tomb Kings before they. I don't know. What do you think? What is your thoughts on the Legends thing? I guess I'm optimistic, but also worried that they're going to pull those War Scrolls and say those points don't exist anymore.
Yeah. As someone, I literally just played a game with my Bretonians a couple weeks ago. I had an intro game, and I decided to play my Bretonians and got literally smashed by the guy I was playing against. It was his first game ever, and he wiped the table with me. And I was like, yeah, okay, it's okay that my Bretonians go away.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
But no, I do tend to think that when units get fought away to Legends, that some tournaments will disallow them. Just because they won't have points in the GHB. And I think that's, unfortunately, for the people who love the compendium armies. I'm one of them. I raise my hand that I love my Bretonians, and I will be sad to see them go. But I think at the end of the day, Games Workshop has, it's hard to expect them to keep, a never-ending inventory of War Scrolls.
Yeah,
right.
That's impossible.
Yeah.
I mean, my thought, like with Tomb Kings especially, is that they did the War Scrolls for them. They gave points for them. Never touch them again, and they're fine.
Yeah.
But who knows if there's some weird combination all of a sudden that this guy, like in Magic, some card is mostly worthless, right? And then all of a sudden a new card comes out, and that thing combos with the other thing and makes.
What FAQs are for?
What?
FAQs for, or I mean, you just errata it.
But I don't think that they probably don't want to worry about that. But I hope that they'll just keep the scrolls out there, and the ones that are out there, they can't take points away. So hopefully tournament organizers like yourself will say, well, here's the points for them, here's the scrolls that were those points, that's what you play with, go from there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just as likely that if those scrolls go away into Legends, then you could just say, use GHB 18 War Scroll or points, and then for compendium for units that have gone away, use GHB 17 compendium points.
Right.
As long as none of those Legend War Scrolls are just bonkers, right? Like they don't turn Necrosphinxes into like ungodly killing machines.
Well, I'm saying you use the ones that were from the PDF that's out there now or whatever.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, just if they change the War Scroll and don't give points for it, you can't use it. But the ones you have now are the ones you have now, and those points.
Yeah.
Anyway, hopefully that's what'll happen. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm always in favor of people just being more open and not. I'm always a fan of allowing more than not allowing more.
Right, and I mean, even in 8th edition, right, there was always people were allowing Chaos Dwarves, right?
Right.
That the army that was kind of odd. So yeah, that was it.
Yeah, I would like to go back to the painting thing one more time, because I think talking about how to like incentivize painting correctly and stuff.
Sure.
I think I think a lot of people value different parts of the game. I value painting very highly. I love painting.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that I love doing, display boards, all of those things. But I think it's just a matter of kind of like what y'all are doing, or what you're planning on doing with Miniature Market, where you have having awards. I think what you award is at the end of the day what people are going to want to do. So if you have more painting awards, then you can probably bet on people trying harder to paint, right?
Right.
And so in our case, we're if you're top 3 with painting, then you'll get a certain amount of points added to your total your total score for the tournament. So it's a way of incentivizing people to try harder for painting because it'll put you closer to best overall.
Yeah, one idea we floated was like using an old Warhammer 8th term, and it looks like we lost Mark. So
I also have to plug in my computer. I'm like stepping away like 2 feet.
okay. We talked about like painted versus hatred unpainted. You know, so you could get a reroll or a whatever against painted people would get a reroll or something versus unpainted to incentivize it. But that seemed a little too heavy-handed. So I like what you're saying.
Yeah. I mean, there's all different ways, and there's no real like wrong way of doing it. But yeah, that'd be pretty funny. I'd be kind of pissed if I was the unpainted player.
Yeah, like, oh, well, you don't have painted army. Well, you can play, but you're going to lose because you're not painted.
Yeah.
You know, when I first started though, with the whole thing, I was like, I don't want to paint. I want to play the game. I was more of a board gamer, you know, and stuff, and I just want to play the game and play tactically. But since I've gotten older and I can't think straight anymore, I get more impressed with just how it looks.
Yep.
And so,
yeah, well, and what I love is like when you go to a tournament and you kind of walk through. If you just think about like Adepticon, you go and you walk through the Age of Sigmar area. It looks markedly different than other tournament areas, right? Like the paint quality, the tables, everything. It looks just more. It just looks more of like an exciting game, and so I know when I'm playing on my games, if you happen to be on like a table in the inn, people are constantly stopping by and like, oh, what are you playing? What game is this? You know, and so
right,
and that's because it looks good. It's a cool looking game.
Yeah, I joke about the old Starfleet battles that I played. You know, it was like a hex map, and he had the chip counters on it. You know, and it was like you had like one ship each, and you're moving around, and it was the most boring looking thing. But it was strategically, you know, it's a game from the '70s, and I don't know if you can see it back there. The rule book's back there, but it's yay thick, right? And
yeah, sure.
but it, you know, you're right. It was a boring looking game. It's kind of died because one, it's so involved, but also it's just, you know, an archaic thing, right? I mean, the visualization, we're all spoiled by computer games and everything else, and so I think that's a big part of the game now. I mean, you can't, even just as a board game coming out, you look at the quality of the board games that come out nowadays, just incredibly different than what they were even 10 years ago.
Yeah. I actually I had a pretty funny kind of interaction in my last game at Adepticon and the teams. And I was playing against the Carriage Overlords, Clown Car, all the nastiness, and I was like looking at it, it's like, man, this is gonna be rough. But just like looking at it, my last game, I've already played. It's not like what, my 11th or 12th game of Adepticon. I was just like, I was done. But there's a guy standing there who didn't play Age of Sigmar, and he was just so enraptured in our game. Like he was like like all in. And so the game ended up being really interesting, where I had deployed all my Stormcast in the sky pretty much, and so I was like teleporting. I was like dropping down from the sky all over the table, and the Carriage Overlords were like flying around the table with their boats. It was a very like cinematic, interesting game. It was super close, and I in that moment he was looking around and he was just like, "Man, this game's awesome." He's like, "This is the coolest game I've ever seen," and I was like, "It's actually this." I was like, "Yeah, I didn't expect this particular game to be very fun to watch, but it was pretty cool. It made me appreciate Age of Sigmar for what it is."
And I think the KO, I can't pronounce it, and the Ideneth really are, you know, them moving to the next level with, you know, I love the old world or whatever, but you couldn't do these in the old world, these armies in the old world. So just having the and the look of KO is just kind of amazing. You know, you got these ships with dwarves parachuting out with their bubbles or whatever.
Yeah.
and now the IDNF is, I think, just, well, fantastic army. I mean, it just looks, I don't know how it's going to play, but it just looks incredible.
Yeah, definitely.
Mark, I know you've been kind of quiet. I've been talking all the time.
Yeah, that's whatever. The only thing I want to talk about is the real reason to go to Nash Con, and that is the trophies.
Good point.
Yeah. Man, I am real excited about the trophies this year. We did, so yeah, just for anybody who doesn't know, we have real life-size weapon replicas, so like battle axes, swords, etc., and they've been engraved with the prize, the whatever award you're winning, and they're pretty freaking sweet.
Nice.
Really.
They do look nice from what I saw when you guys tweeted them out.
Yeah. And actually it was pretty cool. So I had them for kind of like the main awards. So I had best overall, best painted, best sportsmanship, and then we did a super schemers award this year. So whoever, it's for the best schemer. And then so that's pretty cool. And I tweeted those out, and I was gonna do like plaques for best general, best Grand Alliance. And then I received he's been asked to remain anonymous, but there was an anonymous donor that donated the money for the best Grand Alliance generals as well. So we were able to get engraved daggers for
that's awesome.
the Grand Alliance as well.
Really nice.
Yeah, and they're awesome. Actually, the daggers came out super cool, and I really want one for myself.
I'm gonna be super nice. Hopefully, I can get a best. I know I'm not gonna win the best painted or like any of the whatever. So I'm gonna be super on my tip-toppy behavior and get a sportsmanship.
So one thing I found out at Adepticon was basically you rated everybody on a scale of 1 to 5 for the person, and then the 3 questions. Yeah. And it said 1 was like this, you hated this person, and 5 was this person is your new best friend. And then the 3 questions of did they show up on time?
Yeah.
But I didn't realize that essentially, I don't know, it seemed like almost everybody gave everybody 5s, and I feel bad for the people I played because I gave 4s and thought that was a good score. But when I looked later on at the results, it was pretty obvious there were a lot of people with all 5s.
Yeah, there's a whole debate on whether sports is on sports and how to score sports. Because what you don't want, what I don't want is for someone to get dinged for best overall because they received 4s instead of 5s. You know,
right.
Like because they had great games, and it's exactly what you just said. Like, technically, if you get a 5, you're supposed to be that person's best friend by the rules as spelled out on the sheet. But I mean, a 4 means you had a great game. So most of your games should receive 4s. But I don't want to. But from my perspective, I typically give 5s unless the game was actually pretty unenjoyable. And I've rarely had a game that I have thought the opponent on the other side deserved to get dinged on sports. But I've had a couple games. But I don't know.
I was that guy.
Weird. What's that?
I said I was that guy. No.
No. Yeah. So I mean, the way we're doing it is I'm gonna present the sports award, sports scoring as a little bit more binary. So, did they show up on time? Yes or no. Did they play by the rules? Did they play the rules correctly? Yes or no. Did they, different things? And so this should be sports is inherently subjective, but taking a little bit of that subjectivity out of it to some degree. And then I'm going to also be using, and this may not be in the pack right this second, I can't remember. I'm going to be doing a favorite opponent vote as well. So you write your favorite opponent. Cool. And the way that we're also instituting sportsmanship is if you don't have a certain score, I believe it's a 19 or 20 out of the potential 25 points, you can't get best overall.
Right.
So it's kind of it's a cat. There were it could have come into play last year where there were some situations where it could have prevented somebody from getting best overall, and that's what you want for that number 1 spot. You want them to be you want them to have a nice looking army who you want that person to represent the game for what it is, right? And so
So
yeah, it's
anyway, I think that makes sense because you don't want people getting the best score for points just because they, I don't know, they dicked everyone. I don't know a better term.
Yeah, no, totally.
Yeah, that's and I tell you, I really was impressed with the Age of Sigmar community from Adepticon. Like I said, the whole Starfleet Battles thing. We used to call it the Shark Tank, you know, and the new players were chum, you know. Yep. I mean, it'd just be they'd come in and you'd grind them up and throw them out, right?
Yeah.
And you try and be polite or whatever, but it was such a cutthroat game.
That's how Magic is. Magic's probably worse, honestly.
Magic is pretty bad, and I've had a great experience with that.
And I think 40K has to some degree. There's some people have that reputation as well. Mm-hmm. At least in our area, there can be some people that make the game hard to get into because it is a little more technical, and there's some loopholes that you can exploit. I mean, I've had almost entirely good experiences. I think the community, that's why I love going to the tournaments. I said it before, but just the people you go, and then as you go to more events, and I was very intimidated in my first tournament. But as you continue to go, you gain a rapport with the people that typically go to tournaments, and they're just great. I mean, it's the best.
Well, that's what we said. We came back from Adepticon, like, this was great. We need to go to Nashcon.
Yeah, absolutely. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
So yeah, we're really looking forward to. Well, I'm not looking forward to the drive down, but
not too bad.
We're looking forward to coming down and playing.
Yeah, it's gonna be a good group of people. I'm really excited. I'm excited that y'all are coming. It's gonna be a lot of fun. I encourage anyone who's on the fence to sign up. It's gonna be great.
Yeah, definitely sign up. You can kill me. I'll be down at the bottom tables with all the new players. Depending on what Mark runs, he'll be at one of the higher tables, or who knows if he's taking those deepkin.
Well, what do y'all think about bringing? What are your?
I'm gonna bring either deepkin or if I can get it painted. I'm trying to make this the best painted army I've ever done. So I'm trying to take my time, but I really want to bring it.
Yeah.
And if I bring it, I don't know.
So you take it and you prime it 3 different colors.
No, that's not in the spirit of the game. So I'll probably just bring Skaven Scryer, maybe.
Oh yeah, Mark ran this disgusting.
It sucks on objectives though. That's where you lose.
You'll have to read these twists and see if you can.
I tabled an opponent and lost. I mean.
Yeah.
So
it's tough. Objectives change the game. It's tough. I mean, I played Stormcast and they get hammered on model based objectives. It's tough.
Right.
Yeah, so then models my entire army.
So I'm either looking at doing my Tomb Kings, or if I can get it done, the Mortal Nurgle guys.
Yeah.
But I don't see myself getting it rebased, and Glotkin's only half painted and stuff, so I'll probably end up running the Tomb Kings again, but before the points go away, right?
That's right. Got to get it done.
So
for sure.
And I know they're not a top tier army, but they are what they are.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could still run a perfectly solid list with Tomb Kings.
I think it's solid. I don't think it's
they're not as broken as they were.
I don't think Ideneth is honestly the best either. They got a lot of holy within crap that is not that fun.
Yeah, I too have been writing Ideneth lists, and I think their
battalions are so trash.
Oh, I don't know about that. I don't know.
Well, that 3,500 point one
Oh, the phalanx, that doesn't matter.
The one that you need 3,000 or more points to even bring on the board, where every turn is high tide. That's pretty disgusting, but
Yeah.
nobody's going to be able to bring that.
Yeah.
The one that seems like people will bring up with the High Council or whatever, right?
Yeah. That 3-inch extra move is nice. I am a when I build lists, I look for movement. It's one thing that I like to do a lot of. And so if I can get it anywhere, I try to. And so that 3-inch extra move, it's pretty nice.
Yeah, that's you hit on one of the things we're having. I want to do as a topic for a show in the future, is like a list building and what pieces should you be looking for and bringing in your list.
Yep.
I know one of the things when I look at the Nurgle list, that's one of the things that scares me.
What do you mean they have feculent normals? They're fine. They can run and charge.
Well,
yeah.
I mean, you have to be within 7 inches of them. It's not that hard.
You can actually make a Nurgle army be a turn 1 Alpha Strike list. You can actually make Nurgle fast if you want to.
Yeah, and then if you have what's his nuts?
I know if you have the
not the Great Unclean. What's his name? Rodigus. He makes your guys fast.
And they have the drones that are fast too. So
I think Nurgle has some of the best internal balance and overall just a really strong book. Like all in all, like you could take most units in that book and make a decent army.
Oh yeah.
Which is that's kudos to GW. That's great. Daughters of Cain are similar. Just a really well done.
They're the ones that scare me really bad.
Yeah, they're nasty.
So, I think that I'm looking forward to them giving another swing at the Skaven. I know Mark is too, because it seems like right now the only choice you have is really the Skyr. The massive clan rats really isn't kind of
no damage.
The old 8th edition Skaven slaves and clan rats doesn't work.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I really liked the story where they had the Skaven piercing down into the ocean. Did you do that or that portion of it? So that portion of the lore that was pretty cool. Skaven just are the garbage collectors of everybody. So
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, that's a topic we should do. A list building. Not only look at each force, I think that as they go, kind of like we did Tomb Kings last week, but just kind of like you said, when I'm building a list, I want movement. I want a certain movement or units that can be certain movement, or I want a certain capability to deep strike or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a lot of ways to do it in Age of Sigmar.
Objective grabbers, hammers, anvils, things like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Anyway, that's all I have for tonight. I wanted to thank you for coming and talking about Nashcon, and we'll be seeing you down there. Is there anything else you want to let people know?
I mean, I think I've done a lot of talking about myself and things that I'm doing. I think that I'm out. Y'all milk me dry.
Nashcon.org, right? Or com?
Yeah, Nashcon.org. And yeah, if you're interested in signing up, please do so. You just go in and choose a tournament pass, and then type in Age of Sigmar into the blank, and good to go.
Okay, so we're like I said, we'll be heading down and looking forward to it. Thanks so much for joining us, and thanks everybody for watching. I guess I do want to put a little ad on here. You guys that have hung out to the end, please, if you like these shows, go ahead and subscribe to our channel. It really helps as far as YouTube rankings and showing us as people search for Age of Sigmar. So go ahead and do that. And that's it for now, and we'll talk to you next time. Thanks, Dave.
Yep, thank you.